What is up, everybody? We're back again for another year of Best Ball. Super excited. We got the draft tomorrow. We got about a week until Best Ball Mania opens, a little bit less actually. So I'm very, very excited to jump into that content, but I wanted to make sure I got this video out for you guys. 3 lessons I learned from 2025 Best Ball that I'm implementing for my 2026 Best Ball season. Hopefully that leads to, some good success, some nice finishes, and yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it can help you guys out as well. But I'm glad to be back. I'm super, super stoked for this year, as always, and happy to be back making some content for you guys. So the first lesson I learned from last year was to draft with humility. So I kind of did a two-part lesson here where I kind of want to draft with humility, but also at the same time be willing to take the stands. That's one thing that I think I did pretty poorly last year. Just because, like, it's one of those things where it's really hard to go against the current when most of the fantasy community, a lot of the people around you are all saying the same things, and that happens from time to time. And a lot of times they end up being right. Sometimes they're not. In that last year's case, a lot of people were just off Javonte. Like, give me Miles Sanders, give me Jaden Blue, and for me, like, it just didn't really pass the sniff test for me, where I just wasn't. I just didn't like. I was like, am I really taking Miles Sanders right now as like just a hammer play at the end of drafts? And I followed along. I did it. But ultimately, I always believed that Javonte was just the best pick, and my ownership barely reflected that, if not, didn't reflect it. So that's a major mistake where obviously it's not always going to work out. There's a lot of times where you do play the Miles Sanders and the Jaden Blue route and Javonte doesn't work out and then you're feeling great. But I don't think I should have been so rigid where I was just like, okay, I'm going to take like 8% Javonte and then I'll take a bunch of Miles and a bunch of Blue. I did prefer Blue to Miles Sanders. Neither of them worked out. I mean, obviously, if Miles didn't get hurt, who knows what would have happened. But just one of those things where I just don't want to miss out on stuff that I feel good about. And for me, it was just like Javante's, second year off injury. He could just have the starting lineup, starting role the whole year. I didn't expect it to go that well, but it went well. And it was kind of my thesis there. It was just like, hey, he's going to be the guy. And if he plays well, he's going to keep the job. And that's exactly what happened. He played well. He still has the job. And, that could change this year. But as for last year, it worked out really well. Same with ETN. I was taking a bunch of Bigsby, a bunch of Tootin. Obviously, ETN was the big win there by far. But just being willing to go against the current. If everyone else is saying this, at least be willing to go the other way. And I was willing to do it, but not willing to stamp my foot down and be like, hey, I'm taking Javonte a bunch because I don't care what people are saying. This is what I believe, and I needed to stick more with that. I think that would have helped last year a ton. And then in the same vein, if you're overly confident, like, oh, I'm going to take Evans, I'm going to take Godwin, I'm not taking Igbuka. I don't need Igbuka. It's like, be willing to listen to other people and to be like, well, this could be wrong. Godwin could not be the play here. Evans could not be the play here. Let me get some Igbuka shares, which is what I did last year, and that obviously paid off in a big way. So you want to have humility. Like, don't be too confident in the takes you're making, where you just don't want to hear anything anyone else say. Be willing to listen and learn from other people, because there's a lot you can learn. I definitely don't know everything, so I definitely am happy to learn from others and at least try to think of different ways to go about these strategies. And I wouldn't have had any Igbuka if I was just going based off my priors of just, too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm just going to take Evans and Godwin and maybe McMillan. I'm going to fade Igbuka. That would have been a massive mistake last year, as he was a super fast start player. You just kind of want to find the balance of, I'm going to have humility and not be overconfident, but also, if I have a take that I feel pretty confident in, I should be very, very clear about the way I want to play it. Hey, I want to take 12% Javonte. I'll take 6% Miles, and I'll take 6% Blue. Not be like, okay, well, everyone's saying to take Sanders. I'm going to take 20% Sanders and only 5%, Miles, like, or 8% Javonte. Like, that's definitely not what you want to do. At least do what you were planning on doing. That kind of ties into one of the other lessons as well. But yeah, first lesson, draft with humility. Lesson number 2. I did talk about this one as well. I still think this is really, really important. I've talked about it before in many videos as well, but like the difference between early and late production and how you project it. Obviously, you're not going to know for sure when you pick a player in your team. Is this going to be a late projection guy or early production guy or both? Obviously, you prefer both, but there's definitely value to to just have any idea of what they might be for your team. It's obvious, like those guys with the coming off injury, coming off weird situations or suspension, you should know, like, okay, Addison last year was clearly a late production bet. Burden was the tricky one where, like, if you just had to really understand, like, kind of where his role in the offense was going to be, turns out that's exactly what he was. He was a very, very, very slow starter. Turned out to come on down the stretch in a big way. Um, Helped people win millions of dollars with his play down the stretch. So very, very important there to know what you have in him. And then same with Ayuk. Ayuk just didn't even play, but he was definitely someone that if he did play, he would have been a late start guy. So just like thinking about it that way, it's like, okay, I'm going to build a team. I shouldn't be building teams with like 5 late guys that are I would project to be a late start player, because then you're just setting yourself up for failure because you just know that your team's going to be so weak early, you might not even make it to the dance in the later stages. So just be aware of that and at least think about it. You don't have to be fully confident. Like, okay, hey, maybe Burden could be an early guy, but he's most likely late. Just at least try to think about the players in that way, and especially in the ones you can finitely know, like, okay, this guy's a 6-game suspension, so he's definitely not going to be back for a while. Those things are definitely relevant. A guy like Javonte last year, you could have built some really fun zero RB teams with him. You have Javonte and a bunch of rookies. Javonte carries you for a while, and then you get some rookies coming on down the stretch. That would be an example of a guy that you could project early in the season to have good production, and then hopefully it continues, and that's exactly what happened for him. But one of those guys you can't, like, same with J.K. Dobbins, like another guy that you would think has early production, and those both kind of worked out in a decent way last year. So just kind of think about it, and you could probably, if you know enough about the team's build and like how the rosters are set up, you can kind of have an idea like, hey, like this guy is clearly the starter at the beginning of the year. Who knows what'll happen later because they have this rookie now or whatever it may be. I think those are definitely something you can make a pretty good educated guess on. Obviously, we don't know for sure. But a lot of times you could know, like, okay, I know this is going to be an earlier guy, and you hope that it works out forever, the whole season. But you can definitely have an idea that this production is going to be early. And it just avoids you from, like, if you take a bunch of rookie running backs on your team, you're probably just building a dead team. And it could work out if you have enough early guys with early starts. But if you just stack your team with 8 rookie running backs, I think most of the time you just built a dead team that isn't going to make it because a lot of those players aren't going to start getting going. So week 6, 8, 10, and by that time you're already too far behind the 8 ball and you might be just fully dusted. So definitely something to think about, something to be aware of, and because you just don't want to make a dead team like that. So just think about that, and it doesn't have to be rookies. It could be, example, those guys that are injured that are going to have slow starts, the guys that are suspended that are going to have slow starts. There's tons of examples of how this can happen. Just be aware of that when you're drafting, and try to build the best teams you can. Stack some early and late productions so you can take the benefit of the early guys and then also get the benefit of Luther Burden down the stretch. Because a lot of these teams, if they didn't have early production, they're not getting Burden to the finals and they're not getting his beautiful fantasy points that he got in the finals. So all those things definitely matter a ton. Just something that's really, really relevant to this game. And you don't have to know for sure, but at least make an educated guess of what this player is. Is he an early start or a late production guy is super crucial. And the third and final lesson will be tracking ownership or combos of players that you have. I'm personally going to do this with a tool this year. I've never really, I've used tools a little bit in terms of being able to track my ownership. You don't have to do it this way. You could do it however you want, especially if you're going lighter on the exposure. I think it's good to think about, but it's really not quite as important. But if you're doing, 100 plus drafts, I think it's really, really important that you try to track your ownership with some sort of tool. There's plenty of tools out there for you to use, or try to track it by kind of just looking at your ownership and just seeing, like, hey, I've taken Bijan 10 times. Every single time I stack Bijan with these 2 players. I stack him with Rashi Rice and AJ Brown every time. Okay, maybe I shouldn't do that this time because you just need to be aware of what your combos are with every single player, especially the early ones. And so you're not, you don't, maybe you do 100 best ball mania teams and 10 of them have Gibbs on it. And 10 out of 10 of them have the same 2 second and third round picks. That's just something that can happen just naturally if you gravitate towards the same players. I think it's a massive mistake because Gibbs could be the guy you need in week 17, but you don't have the combo with him because you just played the same 2 people every time. And I would imagine most people are not that confident. We're like, okay, I know if I have Gibbs, these are the 2 players I need in week 17. Like, no one can really predict that. I mean, not many people probably predicted Henry to be the guy you wanted with the early running back. Turns out that was what you wanted last year. So, like, if you're not at least tracking your combos in some capacity, you could miss out on the nuts. And that's something that I think I've definitely had been a leak in my game where not only in the week 17 could it matter, but also week 15, 16, where it's like, okay, I have this combo of players that would not get through if I didn't have him with, you know, this player versus, the usual player I have didn't do anything in week 16. But a couple teams I made sure to have a diverse portfolio, and I ended up having Henry on this team, and that one got me through and then got me to the finals. So those are the kind of things that I think matter a lot, and just keeping an eye on it. You don't really have to be with the tool. Like I said, it's not required or anything, but it definitely helps. Definitely saves you time if you're able to do it. And I think this is a good time for me to do it, especially since I'm going to max BBM for the first time this year. I want to be really, really conscious of my combos. And I hadn't really been that in the past. I kind of would just like kind of eyeball it and have an idea like, hey, I don't want to have this player with this player always. But I didn't really keep track, and this tool is going to help me quite a bit on that regard. But like I said, you could do it without a tool. Really, not that hard. Just look at your Gibbs teams that you've drafted. Maybe you drafted 10 Gibbs teams. See who you have with them in the second and third round, and just try not to overlap them over and over and over again. Just because you're really never going to be that confident that one specific player is going to be that important. You just would rather just sprinkle them around, especially those early guys. You just want to sprinkle them around. You can have fades there, but a lot of times you just want to have as much as you can exposure to different players because you never know who's going to be the 40 bomb in week 15 that's going to help everyone get through, or the 40 bomb week 16, or the 50 bomb in week 17 that's going to win you all the money. So definitely important. I think it's going to help me a ton this year in terms of just getting fingers crossed, hopefully one team to the BBM finals. That would be really awesome. I've been close, haven't got there yet. I would love to get a BBM finals team. This will be my most entries I have. And I think tracking my combos will be something that'll, it won't guarantee me, but I think it'll give me a much better chance of getting one to get through just from, having different players and different exposures. I can hopefully slide a team into the finals. That would be really awesome. So I think it's just super important. I think it's probably underrated how important it is, just because you don't think of it that way when you're like, okay, I'm going to take this Bijan team, take the same 2 people, half the time. That really cuts out your outcomes of what can happen because Bijan can have his 40 bomb game, but you miss out on the 30 bomb from JT or the 25 bomb from, AJ Brown or something, just because you're not taking the combos of players that end up working out. And it'll be pretty clear. It'll be like, okay, week 15 comes around, all the Bijan teams. Okay, let's look through our Bijan teams because Bijan dropped 50. And let's see what Bijan teams are comboed with Rashi Rice. Okay, sweet. Now I'm looking at those teams. If you don't have any of those combos, sometimes you're just on the outside looking in and you're thinking like, man, I shouldn't have took only Bijan with X player or Bijan with Y player. Like, I think that's something that I could definitely improve a lot, and I'm definitely going to make a conscious effort to do that. And the tool is going to help me do that as well. So I'm super excited about that. And you guys will see as I'm drafting this year for Best Ball Mania, all contests, you'll see me kind of being more aware of my exposures and kind of thinking about it more. And it'll literally display on the screen like, hey, this is my ownership of this player in Best Ball Mania. And it'll be really helpful as I'm drafting. As you guys are watching along, it'll be super cool. So yeah, definitely stoked for this year. Definitely can't wait for another Best Ball season. Definitely can't wait to hopefully run it back on some of those daily contests I had a lot of success in last year. Super fun, super grateful to be doing it again. Going to continue to grind, and yeah, really happy for it. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And we'll sign off with, as always, find value in everything you do. We'll see you guys next time. Later.